Hi, I'm Mark Ryman, Learning Center agronomist, and today I'm going to visit a little bit about, how to tell how much water is in the soil based on the hand feel method, and then go through some calculations to kind of look at how much water we're going to need to get to the end of the growing season on corn and soybeans. Last week we talked about corn and soybeans and how much water we need, but we didn't really say anything about, other than go out in the field and check it out, how to actually know what's out there. So what I've done is, I've kind of gathered the tools I need to take a look at the soil. I've got my hand probe here. You can use a spade or something like that. You're just going to have a hard time getting down to the second foot, and I wouldn't worry about the third with a spade. But, whatever tool's available versus just kind of kicking the soil surface to see if it's wet under there is a good idea to take a look at. So I've grabbed the first foot of soil here, and what you can see is, it's not very wet. It's been about 5 days since our linear ran over this, and it's coming this direction, but the corn is using quite a bit of water, even with our little bit cooler conditions this week. First thing you'll do is you'll take the soil out. You'll kind of try and press it into a ball. See what kind of a ball it makes. In this case, it makes a very weak ball. I'm seeing very minimal water staining on my fingers. I'm not picking up, a lot of soil moisture in here. If you look at the chart that is kind of linked to from UNL, this is a silt loam soil. It shows you're looking at about kind of 30% plant available water here in this soil. So you'll kind of take that information, you'll write it down, then go back and grab the second foot of soil. So we got the second foot here, the same thing, you just go through, see what kind of a ball you can make. And this one feels just a little bit wetter. It's not a lot different, forms just a little bit better ball. There's just a little better water staining on my fingers, even though it's pretty minimal. So we're gonna call that about 40% soil moisture, plant available water there. And I already took a look at that third foot down there. We're looking at very similar, about that 40% level in the soil. So we have that information, then we can go through and do kind of some rough calculations to get us to what it's going to be to get to the end of the growing season. So over here on the chart, I wrote a few things out. You got a couple of factors in there you need to remember. We've got a silt loam soil. Typically that's 2 to 2.5 inches of plant available water per foot of soil. That's not total water, that's plant available water. Let's assume that if we're out there looking at our corn, we notice it's at a quarter milk line. And if we go and look at some of the information out there, we've got about 3.75 inches we need to get to the end of the growing season. And then another key thing is we don't want really dry soil. We don't want to stress the crop. So our minimum plant available water, we're going to say, is 40% or 60% depletion of that plant available water to get to the end of the season without stressing that crop. So we look at it. I know that my first foot was 30%, so that's just multiplying 0.3 times that 2.25 inches. It gets you right at about 0.68 inches, 0.7 inches of soil moisture. The second foot was at 40%. You multiply that by 2.25, you get 0.9 inches of water. Now let's say our roots are down in the third foot. Again, 40% times 2.25 gives me 0.9 inches of water in that. The total I've got here is 2.475 inches of plant available water in that soil. If this was dry land, that'd be how much your corn has to go on to the end of the season. But we're assuming you're irrigated and we can do something about it. So in this case, my total's 2.475, but I know I want to be at about 40% plant available water, and that's actually about 2.7 inches total. So 0.9 plus 0.9 plus 0.9 gets me 2.7 inches. So we're a little short. We've got to add this 0.225 inches to our 3.75 inches that the corn requires to get to the end of the season. And we end up with that irrigation total or irrigation and precipitation total at about 4 inches. So in a fairly dry soil, this is what the calculation would look like. If you had a wet soil, it would obviously be quite a bit different. We're gonna kind of leave the calculation here, but we're gonna go look at some water or some soil behind the pivot just to talk about what that looks like when you actually try to do the hand feel method. So we're here at a spot that's been irrigated more heavily and more recently. So we're behind the linear now, and kind of going in there, you can see the soil surface is wet. We know where we are. We've got a higher water amount in the soil, but when you probe it, you still take and you can make that ball, just that same procedure. But in this case, you're getting some pretty good water staining on your fingers, and you're making a fairly tight ball. So we're running at about 85, maybe 90% plant available water capacity here in the soil. So that means in this top foot, you've got in the range of kind of 1.8 to 2 inches of plant available water. I would say it's not at 100% because when you squeeze it, you don't get any free water on the surface. That's kind of a hallmark with silt loams, and being at 100% or maybe a little bit above field capacity. You're not seeing that. It's right at about kind of that 85, 90% of plant available water. And this is interesting. When I kind of went and did some research and looked at that second foot, we're in that range of about 80%. Again, it's just a hair dryer. And then we get to the third foot, we're still running about that 40% plant available water. So when you're looking at those end of season calculations, make sure you do the math, for as deep as you can. Essentially, I would say the corn's probably doing a good job of pulling water from the top 2 feet to 3 feet of soil here at the end of the season. So yeah, get a probe, go out, take a look at your fields, and then we do put a link to a worksheet from the University of Nebraska that actually kind of goes through the different soil types. I only was able to show you silt loam because that's what we have here at the Learning Center, but you can go through and look at everything from a sandy soil to a clay soil that kind of goes across a really broad geography for us in Nebraska. So hope you get some time, go out and take a look at your fields, and we look forward to sharing more agronomic information with you next week.
Thanks for watching this video from the Gothenburg Water Utilization Learning Center. For more information, please call 308-537-4500.